In this demo, we're going to go over the basics of InDesign, setting up your compendium file, and starting the assignment 1.1. The first thing we'll need to do is go to Canvas and make sure that we select the Design and Typography section. Once you select that, we'll want to go under Unit 1, the Anatomy of Type, and Assignment 1. In class today, what we're going to do is download the Unit 1.1 assignment PDF, the InDesign Type Compendium page template, and download the Universe type family. So all of that should pop up in your Downloads folder. You have two options. Hopefully you have your own external hard drive, which you can make a design and type folder for and put all your work in for the semester in that. Or you can rely on the Documents folder within your share space. The issue with working in the Documents folder is sometimes there's a lag on the server itself, which makes your overall files run a little bit slower. I'm just going to go and make sure that we transfer all of our files over to the Documents folder. So under Documents, I'm just going to make a folder for Design and Type. Just going to take all these files and transfer them over to the Design and Type folder. So again, we just pulled them and transferred them over to the Design and Type. The next step we want to do is make sure we install the Universe typeface. That's the typeface that's used throughout the whole entire compendium. So what we're going to do is just hold Shift and select all the typefaces here, and if you just double click, it'll pop up in Font Book, and what it has is all the versions of that typeface, and you're just going to say install. And then if you look within Font Book, you'll see that you have all those installed properly. Then we'll open the compendium template, and you won't get an error about the typeface not being installed. If you have any issues with that, just raise your hand and I'll come over and help you with them. First off, let's start with what we're looking at here. The left page within this document will be for Unit 1.1 for today's assignment. On the right page here will be for Friday's assignment 1.2. If we scroll up, this is a cover document that's set up. This will be for later in the semester. Let's just leave this page here for now. Make sure you don't delete it, and we'll come back to it later on in the semester. One of the first things you need to know with working in InDesign is how to work with the guides in the grid. Currently we have a grid set up with a 2-column, or technically a 3-column grid. We have some default text that we put in place that's set with Universe for a header, but also for body copy. That'll be for each assignment's write-up, and we'll work with that at the end of the demo. One of the first things we need to know is just how to turn on and off the guides and how to actually render the type. So under View, if we go to Overprint Preview, it will actually render the type properly. And then if we go under View, Grid and Guides, if you hide guides, it will hide the guides as well. Now a quick key command for the guides is to do Command semicolon, and it'll turn it on and off. So again, it's Command semicolon. And then again, Overprint Preview for turning it on and off. So our next step is to go back to our Design and Type folder, and we're going to open the Unit 1.1 assignment. The first step we're going to do is find a word that has at least 8 to 13 characters. The word I'm going to be working with is asparagus. So the next step is simply to take your word, which mine is asparagus, and we're going to pick one serif family to work with, either Garamond Bodoni, New Century School Book, New Times Roman, or Serifa, and we're going to set that word in 90-point type at regular weight. So we're not going to use bold, just regular type weight. So go back to InDesign. We're going to select the type tool, and we're going to draw right off this grid line here a type box. So if you just hold your mouse down and drag, and I'm just going to type out asparagus. If you do Command A, it'll select all the type. I'm going to set this to 90 point and Times New Roman. So now that we have our typeface set at Times New Roman, again, you do not have to just work with Times New Roman. You can work with the other type options as well. Just make sure you have it set at 90 point. So what we're going to do is just shut off the guides really quickly, see how it sits within the page. Looks like it's pretty comfortably within the white space. And we're going to get started with the next part of the assignment, which is to add horizontal rules that identify the baseline, cap line, mean line, and x height. I'm just going to go over the baseline and the cap height, or the cap line, and I'll let you identify the mean line and x height on your own. So if we go back to InDesign, we'll want to select the line tool, and if you hold Shift, when you're drawing the line, it'll make sure that it draws straight. And if we just zoom in really close, we want to make sure that that line sits as best possible for the baseline of the type. The one thing that's shared between all typefaces is a baseline. And the baseline is what all words sit on. So when we select this line, we just want to make sure up here that it's not set to 1 point, because that's actually kind of bulky when you go to print it out. We're just going to put it at 0.5 point. So make a more of a hairline to work with, and it's a little bit nicer line to work. Next step is we're going to identify and copy this line to the cap height, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's the top of the capital letter. So once we've identified that, then we want to set the type identification. So again, we're going to draw a type box by selecting the type tool. Just going to drag and I'm going to type in baseline, and again Command A will select all the type. I'm going to use Universe, just Roman or regular 55, and we're going to set this at 6 point type. Now all your identification of your type anatomy on this project will be set at 6 point Universe 55. What we're going to do is we're just going to align it with this end line here. If we zoom in, just going to get a nice alignment for the baseline. Then I'm just going to copy this up here and type in Capline. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to align it to the end. And so now we have the cap line and the baseline identified, and we start to work on identifying the part or the anatomy of the typography itself. So our next step will be to identify the anatomy of asparagus, or our type. First step is to do the same as the horizontal. We're going to select the line tool, and the first part I'm going to notice is on the G is identifying the ear. So I'm just going to draw a vertical line. Now the length of that line is kind of up to you, but you just want to make sure that all the identifiers that you do above this line here is equal height. And also to make sure that it's at 0.5. To keep things really simple and consistent, I'm going to select the type that I've set with baseline and capline and just copy and paste and just use that preset type at universe 55 at 6 point and type in ear. What I'm going to do is zoom in, and what we want to do is rotate. If you hold shift, you can rotate the type pretty easily. And again, we're going to do like we did before. We're just going to align the edge with the edge of the type. Pretty simple. The next one we're going to do is the loop of the G. So again, if I hold down Option, I can copy the line pretty easily. It also keeps it nice and consistent, so if this height is equal to this height, the whole entire design is consistent, or pretty close to being consistent in value. What I'm going to do is just going to copy ear down here, zoom in again, select all, and type in loop. Do the same thing, just going to align. Sometimes the align tool doesn't quite align as well as zooming in. So now I have loop, ear. I'm going to identify apex. So if I copy this line again, if you hold Option and Shift, it'll copy it and allow it to transfer across without moving, and it'll keep that same alignment. So I don't need that line to go into the A itself. So what I want to do again is just simply pull that line up. The apex is the top of the A itself. Do the same thing again. I'm going to select this type, copy it over, select, type in apex, same process again, just align it with the line. You can always zoom way in just to make sure it's perfect. And the last one I'll identify is a serif. And a serif is pretty much the feet of any serif typeface. So again, I'm just identifying it on the P, but it's on the A, it's on the S. So some of the parts are shared. So there may be other ears on this typeface. There may be other loops. You may have multiple loops within your word. So again, it's not limited to just one letter or one identification. Just for our design itself, if I have loop identified once, I don't have to do it multiple times. That's the same with the serif. It's obvious that it's repeated. You only have to identify it once. So here I'm just going to again hold Shift and Option and copy it over and just type in serif. Again, you can always zoom in, make sure that it's aligned properly. One of the big things that you'll hear me talk about the entire semester is consistently working with alignments. You can see how nice and clean and presentable this design is. If I was just to simply do something like this, and then do another design, and then maybe my line is identifying, I don't know, another serif, and let's say that I did something like that, what happens is the design goes all organic and it starts to go all over the place. So again, one of the key things with this semester is trying to consistently align what you're presenting so that you're looking more at the design and less about the identification or the information outside the design itself. So I've identified 4 parts of the anatomy. I would continue with this till I have 16 parts identified. And once I do that, the next step would be and it's kind of the final step, is to put in the title of the project and then also the description. And you can find these, and I'm just going to delete the extra column. These will come in, the 2 columns will come into use later in the semester, but just for Unit 1.1, we'll stick with the left align, 1 column, 1 text this time. If we go back to our assignment, there's text for the book here. And if we just simply copy and paste this over, so from an individual letter to ages, just going to copy, select all, and paste. We have the text for this first assignment in place, and then if you just copy anatomy of type, that's the title for the project. So the last step would be to make sure that you're saving versions of your template. So each assignment that we have, you may want to make a new version. There's a couple ways you can make versions. Your naming is kind of up to you. I like to do version 1, version 2, version 3. Some people like to do it by date, and it's kind of your call. But at the end of this, I'm just going to save it into my folder as a version 2. So Compendium Template version 2. The reason I do this is in case I make a mistake, or if the file corrupts, I have a previous version. Hopefully that version is within the last week, and I don't lose a ton of work or a ton of time for that. So again, this concludes our demo. This should cover pretty much everything you need for today's class to finish the assignment. Thank you.